Hey everyone, so on this episode of Make It with Calvin, we're talking about this. It's Geeetech's high-speed PLA filament and my opinions on it so far. So let's dive into it. So first things first, one of my contacts over at Geeetech contacted me about trying this out. I made it clear I don't have the world's fastest printer, but she was perfectly fine with that, as she knew that I was still going to give it a good thorough testing, and she also knows that I am extremely cynical when it comes to the claims of a lot of filament companies when it comes to their materials being, light years better than the competition. So with that in mind, I gladly accepted the role. She had it sent on over, and I've done quite a bit of printing with it. Now, the one thing I will say is right off the bat, this material is quite temperature sensitive. The reason why I mention that is I'm used to printing my PLAs at about 220 degrees Celsius, at about 60 millimeters a second. Now, in the case of this, I printed these at 120 millimeters a second at 200 degrees Celsius. And if you have the temperature up too high, this stuff definitely becomes fluid at a lower temperature. So you definitely need to watch your temps. Initially, when I was printing with this, I was like, wow, why am I getting such crappy prints? Blah, 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 blah. Turns out I was printing it too hot. Turned the temperature down, things got better. Okay, great, we're learning things. Now, that being said though, when it comes to the prints, I actually have to say this stuff is very nice. Now, obviously, if your machine is very floppy, that's not going to help. But if your machine is somewhat rigid, like my X2 here, you should probably be fine. Obviously, you will need to kind of dial in the speed for your machine, your application, how much quality you're potentially willing to lose. In the case of, say, this fuel tank right here, which has some rivets on the outside, the printer's going to have a lot harder of a time than with the fuel tank, but that's a mechanical issue. That's not the filament's fault. So let's cut to a quick time lapse of printing up these 1/25th scale Mack truck fuel tanks for a friend of mine, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my final conclusions on it. So overall, what are my thoughts on the filament? Well, for one, I have to say from a visual standpoint, the semi-transparent look of this is absolutely incredible. I would love to do some projects with this, maybe involving light up items, maybe some vase mode prints. I don't know. It just looks really cool, and red is one of my favorite colors, so that helps. That aside though, as for how the filament prints, I have to say I'm really impressed with it. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to replace all of my PLA filament with high-speed PLA, but I definitely am going to keep a roll or two around and might actually be more inclined to use it now that I've figured out that one, I can print a lot quicker than I'm normally comfortable printing with, and two, there's filament out there that's specifically designed for doing that. I'm so used to printing slow, prints running for a really long time, that the idea of printing quicker seems foreign to me, but now that I'm kind of transitioning back into potentially doing small batch runs of prints or prototyping or things like that, having the ability to print something at a higher speed is really, really nice. So that's my thoughts on it. If you guys have used it and you have your own opinions, feel free to leave them down below. I'd love to hear about them. And if you guys are interested in seeing videos about the truck tanks, this fuel tank, which is for somebody else, technically neither of these are for me, comment down below. I'd love to do some content on it if you guys want to see it. All right, see you guys here next time on Make It with Calvin.